Well, ladies and gentlemen, we're looking at work from home 2.0. A fresh national debate is underway after Prime Minister Narendra Modi's appeal encouraging Indians to adopt fuel-saving habits and considering work from home whenever possible, reviving discussions around a potential work from home 2.0 era in India. The big question, is India truly ready for a large-scale shift back to remote work? Or are we overlooking the challenges that come with it? One side, supporters point to India's rapidly expanding digital backbone with nearly 1 billion internet users, widespread 5G rollout and strong adoption in IT and services sector. Companies have already experienced the benefits of hybrid and remote models during the COVID-19 period. Lower office costs, reduced commute times, improved flexibility and even productivity gains in certain sectors are being cited as key advantages. But on the other side, concerns are equally strong. Experts warn that work from home is not a universal solution. India's digital divide remains a major hurdle, with rural broadband access still uneven and millions lacking stable infrastructure for full-time remote work. Many workers also face challenges like limited home space, unreliable connectivity and blurred boundaries between professional and personal life. There are also deeper concerns: reduced collaboration, weaker workspace mentorship and what some call the invisible employee problem, where remote workers risk being overlooked for promotions. Critically, analysts say only about 20 to 30% of India's workforce is truly suited for sustained remote work, largely concentrated in IT, finance and knowledge sectors. The rest of the economy remains dependent on physical presence. So while work from home 2.0 may offer fuel savings, cost efficiency and flexibility, the challenges lie in balance, ensuring productivity, equity and infrastructure readiness across a deeply diverse workforce. I'm being joined by Dilip Shenoy, former Secretary General FICCI, as well as Mitali Nikore, founder and chief economist, Nikore Associates. Thank you very much, both of you, for joining me. Dilip Shenoy, let's just start with you. Are we looking at, practically speaking, a work from home 2.0? Because Prime Minister did make certain appeals, but how does it look practically at the corporate end? Are we looking at this?
So thank you, and thank you for having me on the show. And I just want to make 3 points here, right? The first is that if you're looking at what the Prime Minister said, there were 11 requests that he made. And if you look at the theme across the 11 requests was, one, we need to reduce our dependence on whatever petrol, oil, and other products, gold, that we are actually importing. The second is, while we are doing that, we need to take some proactive measures in India so that we can collectively, again, reduce consumption of things that we are actually importing and reduce consumption of products that may be in short supply. So we are taking a supply side initiative. This is nothing new. If you look at how some of the other countries have responded to the West Asian crisis and the oil crisis, you take our East Asian neighbors, Vietnam, Philippines, Indonesia, Thailand, right? They have all actually gone into reduction or even in some cases rationing of fuel products, etc. here. And also, in addition to that, they are looking at very similar things, promoting work from home, looking at reducing travel, promoting energy efficiency, so that the whole idea is that while the after effects or the current effects of the West Asia war continue, how do we reduce the impact of this on the lower and the weakest sections of a society, with some other sections of society actually giving up some things that they can afford. It's not about the divide, it's not about who will be left out. It's about a collective national effort to see that if some people can take certain steps, how do we create resources to support other people who really need our help and support in this time?
Mitali Nikore, how do you look at this? Because, at the end of the day, if you are talking about nation building, And Prime Minister also spoke about what patriotism is. Um, if we are really looking at all of these things, there's the other side to it, the flip side to this. And that is a whole lot of burden. Again, when it comes to the home front, work from home front is not equally distributed.
No, absolutely, Sneha. And these are exactly the kind of conversations we were having during COVID, on what work from home really means for different sections of the society. But just to take a step back on, on the efficiency of this move, like why this move makes or doesn't make sense. If we look at the fuel usage consumption patterns, we can see that the transport and logistics sector is one of the largest users of fuel. It's around 17%. We see that industry is another 40%. And then the remaining is actually in the services sector and in the cities. Where our fuel consumption is taking place. So that is a good, 20-30% of fuel usage. And if that, can be reduced in the short term, then for the longer term, for industry and for freight and logistics, one can still find alternatives, through cleaner fuels or through coal-based solutions. Both of these options can be leveraged, and even for petrol, I think the government is considering the ethanol blending program as well. So at the end of the day, I think this is about not one action, but combining the impact of a series of actions to say, can we reduce demand in some of the sectors of the economy where it will have the least economic impact? Can we supplement with, say, ethanol in our petrol and expand that blending program? Can we bring in more and more investment into renewable energy and expand that? So at the end of the day, this is about combining the impact across different sections of the economy and different sections, and seeing how that will actually bring that bill of 1400 crores per day that the government is spending on subsidizing the very costly global cost of fuel at this point, and the import cost that it entails. So that's the logic, I feel.
But Dilip Shenoy, we're also talking about a lot of startups, and it's a mixed reaction to this because a lot of startups are in any way functioning remotely. But you also had this entire phase post COVID where people were being forced to return back to workspaces, physical workspaces, where corporates, even tech giants, went on record to say, you want to come back, you want to continue your work, come to office, to your physical space, otherwise you're not going to be working with this company anymore. That's literally the conversations that happened across corporates for that matter. A simple question: do we need to adapt better to work from home? It cannot be a jolt option every time. It has to be something sustainable where people and corporates, employees and the corporates, get options of working it out the best way possible.
So there you're absolutely right. I mean, I think, work from home is not a one size fits all for all industries, for all types of people across the time. The good thing is that COVID has taught us what works and what doesn't work,
True.
and where it is possible and where there are certain difficulties. And also by introspection, it has enabled us to find solutions to those difficulties. That was a health emergency, right? This is an energy emergency. Now, the challenge here is that not only is the price of energy a challenge, but the supply is also not certain, because we don't know what's happening depending on which mood the certain president is, or the Iranians are. We don't know what's going to happen. Now the challenge here is that it's not only fuel; it's also LPG, right? So we have restricted commercial use of LPG. We're reducing, asking them to reduce consumption. So if you look at work from home, it also reduces a lot of other added expenditure which these institutions were facing in making meals for their workforce, for a whole lot of other things which were not factored in earlier. The COVID work from home was not an energy work from home. It was because of the fear of spread and we had to be isolated. This is an energy work from home, and a lot of countries around the world are looking at ways to do it and to restrict it. We have to find solutions, right? Luckily, for most of us, this is the beginning of the year. So whether it's going to impact promotions, increments, and all, there's some time there, and this is hopefully a short-term measure, right? If it
So
extends, then
you
we have
do
different
you
challenges.
do agree it's a red flag?
Yeah, see, every solution that you have is positive and negative, right? Okay. I mean, if you see a reduced consumption of food cooked outside, there are a whole lot of gig workers that will be impacted, right? There will be migrant workers that will be impacted. Without LPG being there, there has been, and we discussed this in
No,
our
I mean,
show
if you
earlier,
say
there's
take
been reverse.
flights, don't take flights, don't go abroad, there are a whole lot of other people who are on those sectors who are going to get very affected. Airlines, aviation, anyway, is struggling.
No, but I think the other thing is don't do unnecessary flights,
True.
right? Don't do a destination wedding outside where everyone has to do, right? Okay. So these are suggestions. How can we contribute? What could we do? I mean, you just take this show, for example. Before COVID, we'd all be spending fuel to come into your studio, sit there physically and do it, right? Here we're doing it online. None of us
True.
has traveled. It's as effective a show as there is. So there are different parts of the economy and different parts of the industry and service economy where we can do this and contribute to fuel saving, to energy efficiency, to reduce cost, reduce imports, because it is very, very important. I mean, many of your viewers, and I'm slightly on the elder generation. They may not remember at some point of time there used to be a guest control order for weddings. You could not have more than X number of guests. You could not serve anything more than variety of potato dishes and other decisions. We have been through that. So I think, as a economy, we don't want to go back into that situation, but we want to manage our situation so well, at least that if some of us give up something, we can make lives of other people, and the people who really need, let's say,
Okay.
the fertilizer, need the LPG, need fuel, to actually get access to that at a very good, reasonable cost, and not lead to inflation and cost escalation around the economy.
Right. Right. A minute to both of you. Mitali Nikore, what would you say should be at this point the response from the corporate giants, from the corporate sector? And it's not just the corporate sector, it's also a whole lot of other workforces also. Some of them that may be able to adapt, some of them may not be able to adapt from work from home. This is not mandatory, this is an appeal for those who can. Vis-a-vis employees who are working in these organizations.
No, I think the directive is clearly targeted at the leaders. When I heard the Prime Minister's statement,
It's an
as the
advisory appeal.
exactly, but also as the CEO of my company, I think it's a directive to me to say that your staff, your employees, how many days in a week do you realistically need them at an event? How many do you want to send? So we do a lot of field work, for example. So can I use the train, to have my employees go and do their surveys, or can they, or do they have to fly? So these are the kind of trade-offs that we have to make, and it's literally on us as the leaders in this situation to guide our teams. And I really call upon, I think, everybody who's in a leadership position today, if you're leading your team, if you're leading even a segment within an organization, you have a budget that you're controlling, try and understand how can you actually make that budget go to the maximum extent possible, as many efficiencies as we can draw. I think we are working with a lot of our clients to also draw a lot of those efficiencies. So to be very honest, I think it's a all the stakeholders approach. One point I just wanted to make on, one of the points that you were raising in your question in the earlier discussion. Of course, there's a gendered impact here, because we know, we've done studies to find out that when women work from home, they actually get penalized for this. And men actually don't face that penalty, because a lot of male managers have this stereotype. And we found this in a study with a large sample, that male managers believe that women will not work that hard when they are working from home,
Right.
that they will
Right, we're totally
prioritize
out of time.
household.
We're totally out of time. I do want to go back at this point to Dilip Chenoy for his last response. If you know, just to take it from where Mitali Nikore has left it, we're talking about gender, and I know some people may say, "Oh, come on, don't bring that in again. We've gone through this so many times," and so on and so forth. But while we are looking at the possibility of an increased work from home, I think these conversations are also important to be able to make workspaces more balanced and more equitable, because those workspaces then essentially now are back home, and then it's not just for the companies to decide, it's also for families to decide, and often that's a very skewed way of micromanaging.
You know, there's one very interesting difference this time around, because if this continues longer, our homes will be impacted in terms of availability of cooking and oil and other things, and therefore collectively homes would take a decision to actually be supportive of this and find solutions. And I think yes, there will be a gender thing. Luckily, this in the south and in some areas, April 15 to June 15,
Right.
schools are closed. In Delhi, the schools will close later. So we are in a that way we are in a better space. But I think one of the big
All right.
challenges would be education going forward, and we should ensure that kids get to school in whatever way we want. But as leaders, as Methali said, we should say, okay, you get reimbursement if you only travel by a e-cab. We
Okay.
can take a
All
lot of
right. Sir, I'm
initiatives.
afraid I'm totally out of time. But thank you, both of you, for joining me. I think India is looking at increased work from home options. That's likely to happen. I think it's for all of us to just brace for it and make the most out of it, and of course build the nation as well. Dilip Shenoy, Mitali Nikore, thank you very much for joining us.